Resistance, burnout, procrastination, sleepless nights, stress, and painful hard work. Fatigued from running on the high achiever hamster wheel? This is the Bold Leadership Revolution, where we develop high-performing leaders to live, thrive, and lead bold and smart, not hard. Here is your host, Tara Newman.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Bold Leadership Revolution podcast. This is episode 6, where we're talking about some of my favorite topics: scarcity, survival mode thinking, and how to flip that nonsense into abundance. I'm your host, Tara Newman, and for those of you who are new to me, I help ambitious leaders revolutionize the way they work, lead, and succeed so they can leave the grind behind. Now, this episode is for you. I always like to share what this episode is about ahead of time, so if it doesn't sound interesting to you, you don't even have to waste another second. You could just click off right now. However, I think you're going to want to be here for this one. Now, this episode is for you if you are a business owner, if you are somebody leading in somebody else's business, or I have some listeners who are leading on the home front. So this episode is really for any leader, including the moms and dads out there who work out of the house or work from home or work to take care of the kids. Because this episode is for you if you've ever had a money freak out, if you've ever felt like money was scarce, or you've ever felt like you've been in survival mode, which means this episode is for every single one of you. I know that because I've experienced all those things. My clients have experienced all those things. And everybody that I talk to has experienced all of these things. So this episode today is really for everyone. And I couldn't be more excited to talk to you about this because I have had a whole past history with money where I'm sure we're 6 episodes in now. You've probably picked up on some of it. But when I first started out in my career in my early 20s, I was doing really well. I was making a lot of money. My husband was doing well. He was making a lot of money. And then in 2005, we decided to start our own business. And this was a manufacturing business. It had significant startup costs for it, and it was an epic failure. I talk about this a little bit in episode 3 about how serious of an epic failure this was. Ultimately, I like to say it left us no joke broke. And I would have to say that I contribute some to most of that business failure, being that John and I, my husband and I, were in survival mode. That when things started to not go so well, that when things started to feel, money started to feel tight and constricting, that we shut down and we stopped making good decisions because we started making decisions based on money. And so what I mean by that is we didn't invest in team because of money. We didn't invest in ourselves because of money. We didn't invest in getting help because of money. And perhaps if we would have hired in a consultant, or we would have hired in a coach, or we would have added some team, that those things could have helped us grow that business and save that business. But instead, we started feeling not worthy. We started feeling scared. We felt like our lives ultimately were in jeopardy and things were really scary for us. And we allowed that to inform our decisions, as probably any individual would. To fight against that is kind of to fight against your natural nature of things. But what I've learned since then, because we've had a number of businesses since then, and we have done a significant debrief on what happened in that business that caused it to fail. And while there were certainly external circumstances that we had no control over, there were a lot of internal circumstances, things within us that we did have control over, but we didn't see it that way because we were stuck in survival mode, and survival mode left to feeling like a victim. And when you're in a state of victimhood, you can't lead because that is mutually exclusive. You cannot be a victim and lead. And so today, this is really about peeling back the layers, having open, direct, bold, conscious conversation around the feelings that we have all had We are talking truth today. And when I say truth, I mean my truth and the truth that I've seen with professionals that I coach, with executives that I coach, with business owners that I coach, whether they are starting out or whether they are seven-figure earners or whether they are multiple seven-figure business owners. They all freak out about money. They are all putting their pants on one leg at a time, just like the rest of us. And so that's why this conversation is really for anybody. So if you ever feel like you're broke, like kind of financially busted or bottomed out, this is for you. If you are sick of money worries, if you're tired of hearing yourself say, I can't afford that, if you're ready to take control of the way you think about money, and you're willing to be open to abundance in every form, this podcast episode is for you. And I want you to stick around to the end because, as always, I'm giving practical steps that are designed to get you out of your head and into action, meaning you can finish this episode and get immediate results. That's my commitment to you every single episode, that you will grow and develop as a leader simply by being here and taking one action every time you tune in. All right, now I want to get to this survival mode thinking, this scarcity talk, right? And I remember having somebody say to me once, so I was talking about my ideal clients and they're successful, and my clients come to me with three problems. They're already successful and they want to know what's next. I've already done all these things. What's next for me? What's the next level? And they kind of have this idea that doing things the way they've always done them isn't going to be what gets them to that next level, that something needs to be done differently. And they're just not sure what that looks like. So that's one. Two, they're burned out, they're tired, they're exhausted, and they are terrified that any more success that they have will lead them further into burnout. How can I handle any more success when I'm this tired, right? That's what they say. How can I do any more things when I'm already doing all of the things? And then the third thing that they tend to say is they want more money. What do you really want most? And they say money. However, the thing that they want even more than money is joy, freedom, and ease. So they want money. They feel like they've hit some kind of glass ceiling, whether it's in their salary that they're receiving from an employer or whether it's in the money that they're earning in their business. And they want more money, but they also want more joy, freedom, and ease. So when we start to have this conversation about what they really want, what they want the most, they want money, they want financial freedom, and I ask them what's standing in their way, they often say being in survival mode. They use that word, survival mode. And somebody checked with me. They're like, is that really how your ideal client, a marketing person, is that really how your ideal client speaks? And I said, yes. So I would love to know from any of you, and you can find me, you know where to find me. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. I would love for you to tell me if you can relate to those feelings of survival mode. And it feels very much like overwhelm. It's like overwhelm around money. And sometimes I ask them if I can wave a magic wand and present you with some kind of miracle solution, what would that look like? And they say money, more money, financial miracles, profit, right? It's all about the money, except it's really not about the actual money. It's about the way we think about our money. And for a long time, I believed the one thing standing in my way of my dreams was money. It was my financial situation, right? Primarily having a financial cushion in the bank that would allow me to take some risk or to do something differently. And when I was wanting to leave my corporate job, this was the excuse. I'll call it what it was. It's an excuse, was money, not having enough money, not having a financial cushion. And at the time I thought this, I had a fraction of the income that I have now. And I had negative amounts of money in the bank because this was during the time of my family's financial collapse. And one would say I was justified in my belief because I didn't have it. I didn't have the money. It was literally scarce. But then flash forward 10 years when I was looking to leave my corporate job, I found myself with 4 times the income, 150% more money in savings. And I still questioned whether or not I was financially ready to make the leap to achieve my goal. And this proved an interesting point, right? This proved the point about what I said before, that it's not really about the money. It's about the way we think about the money. And I remember during the time of this financial crisis that I was going through, seeing a therapist and saying to the therapist, obviously I was stressed out about money. And she said, but Tara, you can always be stressed out about money. That's never going to go away. Whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're leading in somebody else's business, that fear of scarcity, of not enough money, is always going to be there if you allow it to be. And this is the conversation that I've been having with clients these days, where when you're responsible for your own income, when you're responsible for creating money from nothing, or when you're working in somebody else's business, and in Q4, like it always goes, my executives who listen to this are going to be like, yep, right? So Q4, in the beginning of the year, they set these unrealistic revenue goals. And then in Q4, it dawns on them they're not going to meet their revenue goal. And it's panic. Budgets are being cut. Hires are being frozen. They're trying to figure out how they're going to make that number by the end of the year. They might be pulling in shipments from next year, 2018, and there's this huge scramble. They might be talking about layoffs, and everybody is in survival mode. So whether you work for yourself or you work for somebody else, that threat can always be there if you let it be there. But if you're going to be an entrepreneur and solely responsible for your own income, you're ultimately a commissioned salesperson when you're an entrepreneur. You cannot let that stop you, because that can take you out on any day. Any day you can wake up and go, oh my God, where's my next paycheck coming from? Or where's my next client coming from? Or, I had this full pipeline of clients today, and then for whatever reason, it all dropped out, right? And so on any given day, we can feel stress and strain around our money. So the point is that we get to choose whether or not we're going to feel that way. And success with money is like success with anything else. It's not about the external factors. Success is driven by all things internal. Success is a mindset, and so is wealth and prosperity and abundance. So when we were in the thick of it, in this time of failing in business, when we were no joke broke, when we went from having a multiple six-figure income to foreclosure notices coming in on our house, we were in deep survival. It was a regular occurrence for one of us to remind the other one to only use one swipe of deodorant, because we didn't know if we had money to buy any more deodorant. And I look back at that and I laugh. I think that's like comical, but that is truly, truly where we were. And it was the most terrifying time of my life. And I was depressed and angry and utterly confused as to how two smart, successful people like my husband and I could screw this up so badly. And I lived in fear every day. I felt out of control every day. I felt the scarcity of my resources every day. Yet there was a part of me that was ever grateful for this experience that we were having. We were learning so many lessons on a daily basis that I know we would have never learned under any other circumstances. In fact, all that I have been able to do and accomplish since this time is a direct result of this traumatic life and business experience that I had. The ability to start a business while working full time, to take massive action and turn the small blog that I had into a thriving business, and to create the money needed for major investments in myself and my business, and to create the financial cushion I needed at the time to leave my full-time job, to find the courage to establish authority and be visible in my business, to create all the wonderful opportunities to serve and support my clients. This came from these lessons that I learned during this time in my life. As we progressed through this messy and vulnerable time, something interesting happened. Instead of crawling up in a corner and giving up, which I did do for a short period of time, trust me, I had been balled up in a corner, hysterical in tears, more times than I can count. But ultimately, the decision was I dug in and I decided to rise. I started to research and look for answers where I didn't seem to have any. And I created specific rituals out of desperation, only to find out later that they were the exact rituals I needed to be doing to flip my mindset around money. I began to look at things with a beginner's mind and genuine curiosity. And I started to read and research and really become a student of wealth consciousness and all things having to do with a money mindset. And this has continued from that time until now for it's been over a decade. And I discovered that living in survival mode carried a tremendous cost with it, right? It costs you wealth. It costs you happiness. It costs you thriving relationships, future opportunities. It costs you wild success and financial freedom. It costs you focused energy and momentum and achievement. And now that we've rebuilt our lives and have then had the courage to take more risks, I see things through a much different lens. I see things through a framework of what is possible. And I've declared that I'm no longer available for survival mode thinking. I'm no longer available for budgeting to the cent or financial deprivation, or like my husband liked to call it, austerity. And I don't think you should be either. I don't think that is the way to achieve more money, more wealth, the freedom around your finances, or anything, or prosperity, or anything like that, or abundance. So if you're willing to have an open mind and you're willing to control what you can control, then I'd like to share with you 3 simple and practical steps you can take to shift you out of survival mode thinking and into abundance at any time, because this is a practice. This is not something that we do once and then go, oh, I'm done now, right? This is something I will tell you that I've been doing money mindset work for 12 years, and I do it every single day. And sometimes I have to take a big step out of what I'm doing, because it might require me half a day to really sit down and sift through my thoughts and what's possible, what I believe is possible for me when it comes to my money. Maybe at times I take my hands off the wheel a little bit, or I get busy in something else, and I notice that I'm not in integrity with my money the way I want to be. I'm not having the relationship with my money in the way that I want to have it. And I have to come back to these 3 steps, or one of these 3 steps, or whatever. So step 1, when you're freaking out about money, when you find yourself in survival mode thinking, I want you to break the negative looping thoughts that are going around your head, right? A money freak out is similar to feeling overwhelmed. Your mind races, your heart rate ticks up, your body fills with nervous energy. And then next thing you know, you feel like you're in this death spiral. And the best way to stop the spiral is to step away and to give your mind a break from the anxious thoughts. And you can try any number of things. You can go for a walk. You can take a hot shower. You can try some breathing exercises. If you're a yoga person, you can go do yoga. You can read a great book that takes you off to a far off land. Not a business book, not a book about money, not a book about any of those things, but, just a book that really allows your mind to go someplace else for a while. You can watch a funny movie. You can play board games with your kids. You can do anything that's just going to get you out of your head and stop that cycle of negative looping thoughts. Whatever you do, don't go online. Don't go Googling. Don't go mindless Facebook scrolling. Watch your behaviors around money. Watch if you start to numb. If you're freaking out about money and you start to overeat, or you're freaking out about money and you're mindlessly scrolling Facebook, or obsessively checking your email, or pouring yourself too much wine, right? Like, these are ways that we numb the way we're feeling. And we don't want to numb the way we're feeling. We actually want to feel those things, but we want to break that looping thought, those looping thoughts in our mind. And that's how you can do them. The second step. So once you've calmed yourself down and you're a little more present. So sometimes when I start with my looping thoughts, I start to feel like I'm levitating above my body. Anytime you're starting to feel like that, if you know what I'm talking about, you want to do some of those things I just mentioned, because that's going to get you more present and bring you into your body and really allow you to get conscious around what is happening. No numbing, we want consciousness. So step 2 is I want you to watch your language. The language that you're using around money has an impact on how you feel about money. So when money is tight, we're inclined to go into survival mode and use scarcity language, and be mindful of how you speak about your situation. And I want you to capture these feelings, these thoughts, these beliefs on paper. So if you're someone who starts talking about, I can't afford, or money is scarce, or I can't buy that, I don't have the money, spending money on X is frivolous, money is tight right now, so we have to go on austerity. This is the one that my husband uses. He used to use this one, I will say, because if he's listening to this podcast, he's going to be like, I don't say that anymore. But he used to say, we have to go on austerity, or it's time to make cutbacks. So at the end of each day, I want you to check in around how you are languaging around money. What has your communication been? How have you been talking about money? What have the beliefs been around money? And every day, in order to gain some consciousness, I want you to write these things down every single day. And then when you see them on that paper, you can reframe them. Like if they're in your head and you don't write them down, they become really hard to reframe. But if you write them down, you can specifically go in and change the words and the languaging of what you're thinking, right? So if you keep saying money is scarce, I want you to write that down, because then you can change it and you can say money is abundant. Money is everywhere. It's easy to make money. If you're, I can't afford, I want you to change your language to I can have anything I want. This is something that my husband and I did during a time that I was feeling scarcity. So this was pretty much like when I quit my full-time corporate job and I was now solely responsible, now the commissioned salesperson in my business, I started to feel scarcity. I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I can do this. We're going to go back to that place where we have no money. And I was freaking out. And I'm like, we can't afford this and we can't afford that. And we're on austerity. We're going to have to be on austerity, right? So I pulled myself out of it and I said to my husband, I said, let's go to the mall. I hate the mall, by the way. The mall gives me anxiety attacks. Watching people spend their money on things gives me anxiety and stress from the time when I didn't have any money. So I would go to the mall and I would have no money and I would watch everybody else spending their money. I'd be like, oh my God, they're going to wind up in debt. They're not going to be able to pay their bills. They're spending too much money. They're buying too many things. And it would give me so much anxiety. So we went to the mall. I squashed my anxiety. I braved it. I was very present to releasing any anxious feelings. And I said to my husband, all we're going to do is walk around the mall and say, I can have anything I want. I can have anything I want. And we're just going to look in the windows and we're going to go in the stores and I can have anything I want. And it was a really interesting experience because what I realized was I didn't actually want anything. There was maybe a store that we went into where I was like, oh, I really love that. I want to buy that. And guess what? I could totally afford it. I could buy it. I can have anything I want, right? Like I reframed it. And when you reframe it like that, you realize that you're a lot more selective than you think. Like I thought I was going to walk in that mall and say, I can have anything I want, and then walk into all the stores and be like, I want all the things. But that didn't happen. So I started to learn how to trust myself. I started to learn how to trust myself more around money and around spending money and around believing that I could have anything that I wanted. If spending money gives you anxiety, like it gave me, and you feel like spending money on X is frivolous, X, Y, or Z is frivolous, you can reframe it that spending money is a joyful experience. You can adopt, if you're feeling like you're in survival mode, you can adopt the mantra, I'm unavailable for survival mode, or I choose now to thrive. And what has worked best for me is to write them down by hand. Something about writing these positive money thoughts down helps weave them through the fabric of your being. And here's the truth, that when the crap was really hitting the fan for me, I wrote these over and over and over and over and over again. I was convinced that somebody was going to find my journals 100 years from now and think I was a lunatic. That's how I wrote these over and over and over again. And that repetitive writing really allows you to create new neural pathways to write these things into reality. So I do encourage you to do that. And my third step for you is I want you to think about this in a little different way. So here's the story. My husband and I were away. It was May of 2015. We were driving back. We had a long car ride back, and we were driving back in the car, and it dawned on me that I'm leaving my corporate job really soon. Like I had initially put the date on for the calendar for months and months from that point, but I knew based on the momentum of my business that I needed to leave now, or within a few months of now. And so it was like the end of May even. It might have been the beginning of May. And ultimately I wound up leaving at the end of August. I think I gave notice sometime in July. I gave 4 weeks notice. So shortly after this conversation, I made the decision. But I said to my husband, I'm like, this is real. I'm doing this. Like I'm leaving this steady paycheck, this cushy benefits, and we need to really start thinking about how we're going to bridge the highs and lows of new business ownership, of being a newly established business, because that happens. Things go up, things go down. There's peaks and there's valleys. And I needed us to be in a much better financial position than we currently were. And I needed us to be in a much better financial position than we were when we started our first business. Lessons learned, right? And he's like, okay, we're going to go on austerity. We're not going to spend money on this. We're not going to spend money on that. We're not going to spend money on the other thing. We're not going to, if the kids want to rent a video from Amazon, we're not going to do it. And my husband's he's an engineer. So he's a very logical and practical thinker. And I love him for that. And so this is the way he knows how to do this. And I immediately started shrinking in the seat next to him. This did not feel good to me at all. And I knew that I wasn't going to save a penny this way. This level of deprivation, I couldn't do it. I'd already done so much mindset work around feeling abundant and what being in abundance meant to me that I knew I could not do it this way. So the next day I sat down with my journal and I was like, how are we going to do this? Right. And I just started writing. And what I decided that we were going to do was we were going to write a list of everything we needed to thrive, because thriving was the opposite to me of survival. And I needed to be in a place of thriving in order to help me save money. So all you need to do in step 3 is write a list of what you need to thrive. And you can do this in a number of different ways. You can write a list of what you need to thrive in your business, if you're a business owner, and you can write a list of what you need to thrive in your life. I encourage you, if you have a partner or a spouse, that you write a list and have them write a list and have an open conversation on what is on each of your lists. And I want you to make a note that when you're writing down what you need to thrive, this is not basic needs. Basic needs is survival mode, right? So what is on your list of things that you need to thrive? And some of the things that were on my list that I needed to thrive, this is a short version, was time for meditation and thinking, space to create, time with my family, good TV shows to watch, cozy spaces, a weekly manicure. For me, a weekly manicure is imperative. I like to look down at my hands and see nice nails. I tend to be a nail picker, a nail biter. And if I have polish on my nails, I don't do that. It makes me feel abundant to have a manicure. I need to spend time daily connecting with my husband. I like to get monthly massages because that is how I am best and feel best in my body. And at the time, my car did not have leather seats. And so what I needed to thrive was a car with leather seats, so my kids didn't keep junking up the cloth seats in my car. So as you can see, a lot of the things on that list actually didn't cost money at all. And it really allowed me to take a hard look at my behaviors and how I wanted to spend my time. You know, things like I like good TV shows to watch, but I don't go to the movies. I don't enjoy going to the movies. I'm not a movie person. So what I did was I looked at the things that I need to thrive. And then I went into my bank account and I went into my calendar and I made sure that the things I need to thrive were on my calendar and where I was spending my money. If I was spending money on things that I didn't need to thrive, we cut it out. And that's how we saved our money. So originally, when we were kind of thinking about how can we save more money, we were thinking about getting rid of our phone and our cable provider and saving money that way. Except when we looked at our list of what we needed to thrive, we liked watching good TV shows, but we hated going to the movies. John would fall asleep. It didn't feel great to us. It was crowded. We were too tired. We could never get to the movies. We go to the movies maybe once or twice a year. So instead of canceling our cable, we were just like, oh, well, that's an easy thing because we really don't go to the movies. And if we're like, oh, let's go to the movies because we're bored. We're like, oh, but is that really what we want to do, right? We check in on what we need to thrive. And that's how we use that list. So I really want to encourage all of you to go and create your what do you need to thrive list. And I would love it if you shared it with me either on Facebook or on Instagram. Tag me in it, Bold Leadership Revolution. I would love to hear it. And what I would love for you to do right now is to go and share this episode I'd love for you to subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And I would love it, love it, love it if you left me a review. A review to me is like energetic currency. It lets me see that you're listening, that you're enjoying it. You can give me bad reviews and tell me you don't like the podcast. That's fine. I have super thick skin. But if you could leave me a review, I would so appreciate it. And I would love to hear from you. So please head on over to the Facebook page, The Bold Leadership Revolution, and comment on the post with this episode and let me know what your insights or actions are from listening to this episode. All right, everyone, till next time.
Thank you for tuning in to the Bold Leadership Revolution podcast. This episode has ended, but our work continues online. Head over to theboldleadershiprevolution.com, where you'll find links to any resources mentioned in today's episode, along with other valuable tips and information that will help you lead bold. That's theboldleadershiprevolution.com.